it's me again. I'm Lena and I'm from the Healthcare Landscape Group. In this video, I'm going to be talking about my main video with the topic, the types of immunity. Now, in this video, I'll be talking about two main parts. The first part is the innate immunity and the adaptive immunity. The innate and adaptive immunity are two main types of immunity that we have in our body, or specifically in our immune system. In this video, I'm going to explain deep into what is innate immunity and adaptive immunity. And please keep in mind that the adaptive immunity is much more extensive and has much more details than the innate immunity have. Without further ado, let's get started on our first part. What is innate immunity? Well, innate immunity is the first line of defense that we have in our body. It makes perfect sense, right? Because it's our skin, it's our eyelashes, it's everything, the physical touches, the physical and chemical elements to it. Speaking of which, the innate immunity also has the physical and the chemical elements to it as well. Firstly, for the physical element, we have the skin, of course, which is our biggest organ in our whole body. We also have the respiratory system, the linings of the respiratory system, the gastrointestinal system, and the urinary system. All these three systems fight with the pathogens to get as much as energy and as much as everything that they needed to survive. So they basically just fight the nutrients with the pathogens so that the pathogens don't survive in our body. That is sort of first, the physical elements. The second one is the chemical elements, which includes lysozyme, which is in our sweat and our tears. Well, have you ever tasted your tears and your sweat? It's kind of salty, right? Yes, its saltiness keeps that bacteria and all of those harmful substances from forming in our body. And it is in our eyes and also on our skin for a reason, to keep the pathogens out. We also have our lactic acid in our reproductive and urinary systems in that area. We also have gastric acid, which is in our stomach, and it basically just kills everything, destroys everything that enters the stomach. But it doesn't destroy its own, because it has its own mucus lining to keep it from eating itself, because acid eats and dissolves everything, as you know. The mucus is in our mouth and it helps to dissolve particles too. Some more characteristics of the innate immunity is that we're born with it. It's non-specific, which means that it is not specific on what it blocks or attacks. So our whole skin blocks every virus that it sees and tries to enter our body. That is non-specific. We're born with it, and it's our first line of defense. And this is the most common kind of immunity in almost all of the species on Earth. And that is for our innate immunity. It has no memories at all, which differs from the adaptive immunity, which we will talk about later. Moving on to the second part, which is adaptive or acquired immunity. Well, adaptive and acquired immunity is the backup for our first line of defense, which means that if a pathogen manages to get through that wall lining of that first line of defense, the innate immunity, then our second line of defense or our third line of defense is able to hold that pathogen up from entering our body and essentially our immune system, and destroys everything in its path. It has a very good memory, so it's just basically keep tracks of every single pathogen or antigen that it has ever fought in its whole lifetime. And it's also specific, which means that it knows which kind of tactic or which kind of strategy it uses to attack that specific pathogen. Like again, it keeps tracks of virus and it's specific. Those things work together and they're linked together. Now, the adaptive immunity has two types of, there's passive and active, two types of smaller things. we have the active one. The active has two things, which is artificial and natural defense. Now, for the artificial, which means that the immunity that is developed by vaccination. And now let's talk first with the natural one, and we'll talk later about the artificial, because the artificial, we will need to know some basic knowledge about the natural first. Now, the natural immunity, the natural adaptive one, is if the person gets infected by, let's say, a pathogen, a single piece of a bacteria, then the immune system fights and defeats that pathogen, and then remembers it thanks to its memory, its great memory. Then it knows what to do next time, what tactic or strategy to fight that pathogen back. And it will build immunity towards that pathogen. So we will build our immunity towards that pathogen, so that every time that pathogen enters our body, we will know, our body and our immune system will know what to do when it fights or attacks back again. That is for our natural part. So we don't need any kind of human intervention with this. For our artificial one, coming back to this, is the immunity developed by vaccination. So if a pathogen manages to get through the blocking, and there's no way that our body can fight that back, or if our natural line of defense is not as great as it used to be, then we will have vaccination, which is immunity developed by vaccination. Vaccination helps us to be immune against a kind of bacteria, for example, the COVID-19, for example. Vaccines is basically just weakened and dead form of pathogens or germs and everything. Now, why do we inject all kinds of dead germs, weakened germs, pathogens into our body? Well, that's a great answer. I'll explain why. You see, when there's a pathogen that enters our body, our immune system, for this case the vaccination, when it enters our body creates a response that does not cause an infection. It does not cause an infection in that area, but it just secretly and quietly fights that. And it knows what to do next time, and we are immune to it, just like the natural line of defense. It remembers that, and over time, it builds its immunity. When you see, there's an experiment with snake venom into bunnies. If we inject just a small amount of snake venom into the bunny, only a bit for a while of time, it doesn't get infected or anything, or any bad results. Therefore, we will have bigger and bigger amounts of snake venom, and then it will become fully immune to that snake venom. And that is complicated, complex, and beautiful. The beautiful part of our immune system. That is for the active immunity. And active immunity is immunity from exposure of a disease that triggers the immune system. And it's long-lasting, which means that it lasts for a lifetime, because it remembers every single pathogen that it has ever defeated. For the passage of the adaptive immunity, it is the immunity and protections from the antibodies. The antibodies is the things that keep our immune system from working. It keeps the immune system working. It is short-lasting, and antibody doesn't last for a lifetime. As you may know, it will die in a particular period of time. So first, we also have the natural and artificial. The natural one is the antibodies accumulation without medicine or any medical intervention with any technology or whatever. Now, the antibodies, natural is the antibodies from the mother to the baby. So, for example, it's called maternal passive immunity. When we're still in our mother's womb, we're still connected to her through the umbilical cord. We will have that protection, that antibodies through the placenta as well as the milk. So when we're still in the womb, we have the antibodies from our mother through the placenta, which connects us also to that. It's the base of the umbilical cord. And for the milk, after we are born, our body is still weak. The immune system is not mature enough. Therefore, we will need the milk from our mother through breastfeeding, and that will also provide some antibodies for us to build up. And it will provide protection for us until our immune system is ready and is mature enough to fight off bacteria on its own, respectively. For this artificial passive one, it is fighting infection with antibodies still, and also with medical intervention. If that virus is too strong, for example, then we will need the medical intervention, the antibodies from the lab, from the laboratory, from experiments, or from a donor, a different person or animal or species maybe. It produces antibodies. They can produce antibodies artificially, and it will provide immunity from animals that have rabies, bite from animals that have rabies, for example, dogs or cat, or even from a snake bite, for example. It will provide that immunity from that. It is short-lasting, and it fights with the antibodies. So it's fight on the side of the antibodies against the antigens. That is all for the adaptive immunity. Now, I want to add in one more quote and also one more fun fact. Did you know that laughter can actually help your immune system? As the saying goes, laughter is the best medicine. And in this case, this could be applied in the case of the immune system too. It has been scientifically proven by scientists that laughter can release some dopamine and other beneficial chemicals into the brain, which can help the brain to release some stress. And stress is harmful to our immune system, you know. And that is one fun fact. Our code is similar. It's just the same concept and links to each other with the fun fact here. 1 minute of anger weakens the immune system for 4 to 5 hours. 1 minute of laughter boosts the immune system for 24 hours. And this quote is from someone that doesn't have a name. They don't show their name, and yeah, that's called enough. I want to show you some pictures too. For our lines of defenses, we have the non-specific and the adaptive and innate immunity. And as you can see, our eyes have the tears, all of those innate immunity from the physical lines of defense to the chemical lines of defense. And yeah, that is non-specific, specific, and everything that you need to know. Then we also have this, which is the cells, basically just the cells of our immune system. Our innate immunity has macrophages, dendritic cell, monocytes, and for neutrophils as well, and basophil, mast cell, natural killer cell. For our adaptive one, we have the B cell, the T cells, the antibodies, the cellular, which is the T lymphocytes, and everything, every cell too. Now, here's the mind map, which is just similar to my mind map. We have the physical barriers, the chemical barriers, and the cellular defenses for our innate immunity. As for our adaptive immunity, we have active and passive immunity, the natural and vaccination. And we also have maternal and artificial, like I've also explained in my video a while ago. Here is a more detailed graph. Naturally acquired passive is the immunity acquired from antibodies passed through breast milk or through the placenta. We also have immunity gained through antibodies harvested from another person or animal that is artificially acquired. And as you can see, active is immunity gained from illness and recovery, and immunity acquired through a vaccination. And that is essentially everything that you need to know, just a brief overview of the types of immunity that we have in our body. I hope that through this video, you may learn something new, and I hope to see you soon in next video or next meeting. I appreciate your time and attention here, and thank you too. See you again. Bye.